There was a young couple on my doorstep at 4 in the afternoon with 2 suitcases and a booking confirmation. The man read my own address off his phone to me, slowly, in case I was confused. Then he showed me a printed list of house rules. Rule 7 said the bins go out on Tuesdays. It was signed warmly, "Charlotte, your host." Charlotte is my son's wife. She has never owned a house in her life. My name is Nora Fenwick. I am 69, and that was the afternoon I found out what my family had been doing with my father's cottage. My father built it in 1961 at Fenn Head on a piece of scrub the council could not sell because the road stopped 400 yards short of it. He was a joiner. He built it over 5 summers with his brother and a man called Denny who was paid in beer. 2 bedrooms, a box room, a kitchen with a window that faces the water so that whoever is at the sink gets the best view in the house. My mother said that was the only romantic thing he did in 41 years, and she brought it up at his funeral. He left it to me in 1994. Not to me and my brother to me. My brother had a house and a practice and a boat, and I had a bedsit and a job in a dry cleaner's, and my father did the arithmetic the way fathers do. I have paid every bill on that cottage for 32 years, the roof in 2001, the rewiring in 2009, which took my savings and my holiday and most of my patience, the retaining wall in 2018 after the sea took a bite out of the bank, and every summer I have let my family use it, all of them, for nothing. It started sensibly enough. My brother Peter's family in July, my son Michael and his family in August, cousins in between if they asked. Nobody ever asked after about 2006. They simply went. I used to drive down in September at the end of the season and put it right. I want to describe that properly because put it right is doing a lot of work in that sentence. 22 years of Septembers. Bin bags of things left in the fridge. Sand in the beds, actual sand in the actual beds. A shower curtain gone black at the hem. 3 years running somebody put metal in the microwave and nobody mentioned it, and I only knew because of the scorch marks. I replaced the mattresses in 2015. Nobody asked why. I bled the radiators every autumn. I know the exact sound the boiler makes before it stops working, which is a piece of knowledge you only get by being the one who deals with it. And every year I said nothing, because I liked that the cottage was full. I did. That is the truth, and it does not make me a martyr. My father built a house for a family, and I liked hearing that it had a family in it, even when I was not in it myself. In March, Charlotte sent a group email to 11 people. The subject line was Fenn Head 2026, fair allocation, with an exclamation mark, which I have thought about a great deal since. She had made a spreadsheet, color-coded. She wrote, noticed that the same people tended to get the good weeks, and it was time we did this properly so that everybody got a turn. Peter's family, the last 2 weeks of July. Michael and Charlotte, the first 3 weeks of August, because of the children's school. Charlotte's sister and her husband, who I have met twice, at a christening and a funeral, had the second half of August. And down at the bottom, in a paler shade of the same green, was my name. Nora, 14th and the 15th of September, box room. 2 nights, in the smallest room. In the house my father built for me. She had put a little note next to it. Nora, I've put you in September as I know you like it quiet. And you're usually down then anyway doing the tidy up. X here is the part I am not proud of. I read that email 4 times and then I replied, "Looks great, thank you for organizing." Then I went and did the ironing. I have tried to work out why, and the honest answer is that I could not think of a way to say I own it that did not sound like I was saying I own it. 22 years of not mentioning it had made it unmentionable. I had let it become the family cottage so thoroughly that reclaiming the word felt like snatching. My son rang in April about something else and mentioned the spreadsheet in passing and said, "Char's really organized, isn't she?" in a proud sort of voice. And I said, "Yes, love, she is." Michael did not know. I need to be clear about that because it matters later. My son is not a cruel man. He is an incurious one, which on a long enough timeline can do similar damage. I went down on the 9th of June because the guttering needed doing before the summer. I was there 4 days. On the afternoon of the 12th, at about 4 o'clock, a car came down the track that stops 400 yards short, and a young couple walked the rest with 2 wheeled suitcases making a terrible noise on the stones. His name was Adam. Hers was Priya. They were about 30, and they had that slightly apologetic brightness of people who have driven a long way. Adam said, "Sorry, is the key box round the side? The code isn't working." I said there wasn't a key box. He turned his phone round and showed me. Fenn Head Cottage, sleeps 6, sea views, £890 for the week. 12 photographs, my kitchen, my father's window over the sink. The bedspread I bought in 2015. 61 reviews. The earliest was from 2022. 4 years. Priya said, very kindly because I had gone a color, "Are you all right? Are you the cleaner?" I made them tea, which is what I do in a crisis, and I sat down at my own table and did the sums on the back of an envelope while they very politely pretended not to watch. 4 seasons. The listing showed availability going back to 2022, and the reviews clustered in June and September, the weeks the family did not want. The shoulder weeks, the weeks I was normally there, except that Charlotte's spreadsheet had moved me to the middle of September and I had not thought to ask why, at £890 a week, and reviews in the low 60s. Somewhere north of £40,000 had gone through that cottage. None of it had come to me. All of it had gone through a listing that said, "Your host, Charlotte." And the reason the fridge was always disgusting in September was not that my family were slobs, it was turnover. I had been cleaning up after paying guests for 4 years and calling it family. That night, after Adam and Priya had gone up, I sat at the table with Adam's phone. He had left it with me, which was either trusting or frightened, and I read all 61 reviews. That was the worst hour of the whole business, and I did not expect it to be. Charlotte thought of everything. There were fresh flowers. I put those in. I cut them from the bank behind the shed every time I came down, and I put them in a jam jar on the sill because my mother always did. Spotless. You can tell the owner really cares. Charlotte left us a note about the tide times, which was so thoughtful. I wrote that note. I wrote it in 2019 and laminated it because the damp was getting at it, and it is in my handwriting. And 61 people have read it and thanked a woman who has never once checked a tide table in her life. There is a particular kind of theft where somebody takes a thing you did and wears it. The money was the smaller half of it. I want to be clear about that because people assume the money is the wound. It is not. The wound is the flowers. I did not ring anybody. I did not send an email. I have read enough of these stories to know that the satisfying version involves a scene, and I want to be honest that there wasn't one. What I did was this. On the 13th of June, I drove into town and had a locksmith come out on the 14th. £240, which I paid in cash, and he was done by 11. I let Adam and Priya stay the week. They had paid, they were decent, and it was not their fault. I told them the truth on the second morning, and Priya cried a bit, and Adam offered to leave, and I said absolutely not. You have paid £890, and you will have your holiday. I took them out to the point to see the seals. They send me a card at Christmas now. On the 20th of June, I wrote to the letting platform with my deeds, and the listing came down inside a day, and then I did nothing at all because I did not have to. Charlotte had taken bookings through to the end of September. The first call came on the 28th of June from Michael, in a voice I had not heard since he was 17 and had put a car through a hedge. He said, "Mum, something's happened with the cottage. The website's gone, and Char's absolutely. There are people who've paid." And I said, "Yes, love, I know." There was a silence on that line that went on for a long time, and I let it, because he was getting there on his own, and it was better that he arrived without me driving. He said, "How do you know?" I said, "Because it's my house, Michael." He said, "I know it's your house." And I said, "No, you don't. You've known it the way you know your blood type. You've never once had to use it." Charlotte rang 11 minutes later. She was not apologetic, she was efficient. She said we needed to sort this out because there were 11 bookings and deposits, and her rating was going to be destroyed. And did I understand what a cancellation did to a host's standing? I said I did not, no. She said, "And this is the sentence I will keep for the rest of my life. Nora, be reasonable. You weren't using it." Michael drove down on the 5th of July on his own. He stood in the kitchen and looked at the window over the sink for a while, and then he said, "I didn't know about the money. I want you to believe that." And I do believe it. That is the trouble. He didn't know because he never asked where the clean sheets came from, or who paid for the boiler, or why his mother spent every September on her hands and knees in a house he thought of as his. He asked what he could do, and I said he could come down in September and help me put it right, and he has, twice now, and he is bad at it, and he complains about the sand, and I have never enjoyed anything more. Charlotte and I are polite. She refunded what she had to. She has told people that there was a legal misunderstanding about the property, which is one way to describe owning something. Peter, my brother, sent me a 2-line email saying he had assumed it was all above board and he was sorry, which is more than I expected and less than I wanted, and that is most apologies. The cottage is let now, properly, through a local agency. It pays for itself and a bit over. 2 weeks every August are blocked out and always will be, and anybody in this family is welcome in them, and all they have to do is ask. They ask now. I have had a year to think about what I would say to you at the end of this. It is not stand up for yourself, because I did not for 22 years, and I do not think I could have. It is smaller than that. It is this: notice who does the cleaning. In any family, in any house, somebody is doing the part that nobody photographs. Somebody bleeds the radiators. Somebody knows what noise the boiler makes. And there is a strange, persistent human habit of assuming that the person doing that work cannot possibly be the person who owns the building. If that is you, the one they seat in the box room of your own house, you do not need a scene. You do not need a speech. You need to stop being the only one who knows what you have. Say it out loud, once, to one person. That is all it takes. I promise you the sky does not fall in. Mine held up beautifully.